Hi there, I'm just going to show you how to test yourself for a diastasis recti and the different things you should be looking for. So if you just take a lie down, have your knees bent. Now, as I've gone through before, you're not just looking at the gap and how big the gap is down the center here. You're actually looking at also the linea alba, which is the connective tissue which joins the two muscles. And that's what's been stretched during your pregnancy and is often weak after you've had the baby. Okay, now we want to be feeling whether you can generate tension into that connective tissue up the middle, down the middle, along the whole length, or whether it's actually just stays squishy and you're unable to do that. So what we want to do first is you're going to be measuring the gap and the tension of the linea alba at 3 different points. Okay, so you're going to measure it between your sternum here and the belly button, right in the middle, at the belly button level itself, and then between the belly button and your pubic bone. Okay, so make sure that your trousers are pulled down low enough so you can get easily to the area. So if you start by getting your fingers and just place them between your sternum and your belly button, and then you just try and feel if there's a gap there, and if there is a gap, then just how many fingers can you get into the gap? Can you get 2, 2.5, 3, you might even get 4 fingers into the gap there. Okay, now stay in that position and then just feel it. Does it feel squishy or mushy? Do you feel that you can go quite far deep in? You can measure how far you go deep in with your knuckles. So can you go into about 1 knuckle's worth? Can you go about 2 knuckles worth? Or can your whole finger go in deep inside? Okay, so make a note of that. Now, again, in that position, I want you to lift your head up and your shoulders off the floor. So just a curl up. And then I want you to just note what happens to the gap. Does the gap get wider or does it come together? Okay, and then come down. Now you're going to do that again. And now feel the linea alba. Is it mushy underneath there? Or is it nice and tense? And come down. Now, you'll do it now with contracting the pelvic floor and deep abdominals. So we've been through that before. So contract the pelvic floor, just lift up deep inside. So think, contract in the front, stop the urine flowing, contract in the back, in the back end of your anus, and then lift up deep inside. At the same time, try and think about these 2 muscles at the front coming in together. So you go back to the same point between your sternum and your belly button, and then contracting those muscles, you lift up. And do you feel any difference? Can you feel a bit of tension there that you didn't feel before? Can you go less deep than you could do before? Now you're going to do exactly the same, but at the belly button level and between the belly button and the pubic bone. So go to the belly button level. Now just feel how many fingers you can get into a gap there, if there is a gap there. Is it 1, 2, 2.5, 3 fingers? Okay, how many fingers? Can you just wiggle them around? You can try and feel the borders of the abdominal muscles either side, showing you the gap. Okay, now also feel, is it mushy? Is it tense in there? And then just see how deep you can push the fingers. Can you get to 1 knuckle, 2 knuckles, 3 knuckles, the whole finger? Okay, so make a note of all of that. Now, again, just when you lift the head at the belly button level, what happens to the gap? Do you feel that the gap comes together against your fingers, or do you feel that it gets wider? Do you feel that it's mushy, or is it quite tense underneath those fingers there? It's quite nice and taut. So just write a note about that. Now, this time you're going to do it, but again, you're going to do it with drawing in that pelvic floor and making the deep abdominals contract in the middle. Again, so go to the belly button, drawing the pelvic floor up, contracting these deep abdominals, and lift. Do you feel any change? Does it feel like it's now taut in there? Does it feel like the gap is actually staying the same, or is it coming together or opening? Or does it feel mushy? Okay, and come back. Now the last time is going to be the point below the belly button and the pubic bone. This time, you're going to feel how many fingers just in relaxed position like you are now. So just pushing in, how many fingers can you get in the gap, wiggle around a little bit, try and feel the borders of the abdominal muscles on either side. Okay, now feel if it's mushy or tense in there, make a note. And then how deep can you go? 1 knuckle, 2, 3, or the whole finger? Okay. Now, we're going to do the same. So you're going to just lift that head and shoulders. Just feel what happens underneath the fingers. Does the gap get wider or does it come together? Stay the same. Okay, how far do your fingers go in and does it feel tight, tense, or mushy? And now, again, doing it, but this time with the pelvic floor on and the deep abdominals working, so drawing across the front, and find that position between the belly button and the pubic bone. Lift up with the contraction on. So pull up in the pelvic floor, pull in the deep abs, lift, and what happens beneath those fingers? Now, other things to have a look at is when you're lifting up, do you see any kind of doming in your stomach? Do you see a ridge along the linea alba line in the center there? Or do you see a whole dome of the tummy? Just make a note of this and then try and do it again, but drawing in the pelvic floor and the deep abdominals. And does it make any difference? Do you see less of the doming? Does that peaking resolve? What happens? Okay, so make a note of these things. And then I'm going to show you next a different test that you can also do to measure the diastasis recti.